Hey, Pastor Josh here. We're reading Genesis chapter 14, verses 8 through 16, and we're going to continue to talk about this ancient world war of all the known kingdoms of the time coming together and coming down to kind of crush this rebellious these five rebellious kingdoms in the Jordan Valley. Of note for us, I'm sure many of you would know these words, would be Sodom and Gomorrah. So here are the four major superpowers, kingdoms of the time, of the ancient time, being led by the King K. I was actually reading the NIV. I don't know why I copied the NIV, but we're back to the CSV, so it's King C. Chedorlaomer. We'll see if I can better pronounce that here in a minute. But here he is leading the Elamite kingdom, leading all four of these to come in and kind of crush these five rebellious kings here in the Jordan Valley. And remember, the only reason we have this is because it involves God's people. It involves Abraham and Lot, who does get kind of snatched up when they come and have this big fight. And so these guys have come down by way of review too. These four kingdoms have come down. They've attacked all the surrounding areas. They have probably got all kinds of loot and all kinds of stuff. And then right here at Sodom and Gomorrah, right here at the top of the Salt Sea, north of the Salt Sea, which is the Dead Sea, is where all the kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Zeboim, Edom, and Zoar, where they will meet these four superpowers. So let's read our reading. We'll see that Lot will get captured, and Abraham is going to go and save him. So then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, went out, and they joined battle in the valley of Siddim with Chedorlaomer. I guess it would be K. That's why the NIV is giving us a K instead of CH. Just like Chaldeans, spelled with CH. So Chedorlaomer. Anyway, King C, king of Elam. Y'all say, Brother Josh, why are you doing this? Elam, Tidal, king of Goyim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elazar. Four kings against five, and I've tried to highlight them there for you to see the alliances. Now, the valley of Siddim was full of bitumen pits, and remember, that is asphalt. There's a mixture that would kind of give you our equivalent of asphalt. And as the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into these asphalt pits, and the rest fled to the hill country. So you see, this wasn't even a battle between these five kingdoms and these four superpowers. They're coming in. They're even fighting in a territory they're not really that familiar with, and then they just fall just ridiculously fast, and they're running away. They're even falling into asphalt pits. So you just see the pandemonium that's being created by these kings coming in and invading, and some fall into these pits and the other run into the hill. So the enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah. So here we see these external nation states coming in, remember, being led by King C of the Elamites, coming in and destroying Sodom and Gomorrah and taking their provisions. And actually, I think it's of note they didn't destroy the cities. They didn't burn it. They just took everything away, because it does appear they go back and settle these cities, which will then later on be destroyed. They also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and went their way. So Lot gets captured in this kind of world conflict, in this battle. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he was in Sodom, and he shouldn't be there to begin with. So he's actually dwelling in Sodom, who Scripture clearly told us were wicked people. Lot knew that, and he first dwelt close to Sodom, and now he's actually inside Sodom. And so he is there living within the city, apparently feeling very comfortable with these wicked people. In fact, the New Testament tells us that Lot, his soul was distressed. He distressed his soul by living among the wicked people and having to put up with them. So his soul was tortured, but still he was okay with it. And you even see a sliding into it. He sees the beautiful land. He pitches his tents kind of close to it, and now we see these actually dwelling in Sodom. And actually, even after all this, he never moves away, right? He goes back there, and he's just fine living there. Then one who had escaped the battle came and told Abram the Hebrew. It is interesting. Isn't that interesting? You remember I've talked to you about maybe various sources that Moses might have been using. We looked at the generations of. We've pointed those out as we've walked through the book of Genesis. Of course, I believe that God there on Mount Sinai and Moses' relationship with God would have obviously helped him do that. Perhaps even he edited them or whatnot. But it is interesting that Abram is called the Hebrew because he hasn't been introduced that way up until this point. So it almost seems like this might even be like another source flavor coming in here. Anyway, that's another thought just for me. But he told Abram the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and Aner. And it's interesting that, these were allies of Abram. When Abram heard that his kinsman had been captive, he led forth his trained men born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. So here's a couple things. One example for us to follow. He hears that his cousin, or he heard that his nephew has been captured, and he's going to get his trained men that are trained for war. At this point, you normally don't think of Abraham being kind of like a military man or somebody being able to fight. But we have this clear story and actually fairly large block of text within the Abraham story of him being a military conqueror and kind of knowing his way around this stuff. And so he has trained men who are able to fight, 318 of them, and he then pursues these massive superpowers that were from afar and that have been in the region. And he goes after his nephew who, kind of just took the best land, kind of did his own thing. He still loves him, even though they've separated, even though he picked the best land, he still says, I love my nephew. I'm going to go take care of him. I'm going to take 318 people. I'm going to go against these big old superpowers. So he takes 318 of them, and he divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and defeated them. And pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus. I'll put the map up here in a second. So another example for us to follow, not only does he continue to love and take care of his nephew who has made terrible choices, he also is showing extreme wisdom in war. He's showing extreme wisdom on how to engage the enemy. And we need to make sure that we're using our brains, we're using our resources, we're using our hands, we're thinking when we are engaging life and when we're engaging problems. He divided his forces against them by night. So Abram is smart. He's going at them at night. He's dividing them, so he's somehow trying to surround them. We can conceive of other war stories in the Old Testament where they take flax, they take jars and they put fire in them and they bust them and they make all kinds of noises. There could be all kinds of things that Abram could have done with 318 men against a much larger army and would have put him in a position to kind of rout them and to defeat them. In fact, he even pursued them all the way to a city north of Damascus. So we need to be smart. We need to use our resources well, as we see Abraham doing. Of course, he's doing all of that because he loves his nephew. He's loving his neighbor as himself. He is putting himself at great risk. Great risk. Don't you think they probably thought there was a chance that they wouldn't make it out? And yet he went and he did it because he loved Lot. And then Lot went back and lived in the same place again. Why'd he do that? I don't know. Verse 16, then he brought back all the possessions and also brought back his kinsman Lot with his possessions and the women and the people. So Abram goes and he wins this great victory. And perhaps you're even thinking, hey, historically, could that even happen? Yeah, we have other biblical stories where the Israelites were outnumbered by their enemy. Actually, there are contemporary war stories of victories of smaller troops defeating larger ones. And of course, if it's done in the right time with great wisdom, it can be done. But let me show you the map here. This is the initial campaign. This is where the main battle happened. between Sodom and Gomorrah and those 4 foreign kings. Then Abram, he comes up here and meets them in Dan. So what some people are even thinking is that, okay, they've won the major victory. All these are kind of smaller victories that these foreign powers would have had, but once they defeated Sodom and Gomorrah, that would have been the major defeat, the big win, and so that they have possibly went all the way here to Dan, and they're just enjoying the spoil. They're drunk. I mean, the text doesn't tell us, but I think you can conceive of that. They're thinking, we've destroyed everybody now. We're on our way home, and they're just kind of relaxing. They're not thinking anybody's going to come get us. And then Abraham takes his 318 men, comes up here to Dan, attacks them, and then he chases them all the way up here to Hobah, and then defeats them. And then I guess then they all go back home. And Abraham comes back and brings Lot safely back to his homeland. I pray that has been a blessing to you. What's going to be real interesting and real exciting is in the next reading, we're going to see Abraham meet the mysterious king of Salem, Melchizedek, who the book of Hebrews, the writer of Hebrews, picks up later on. So after this great victory, then Abraham is going to meet this mysterious king of Salem, Melchizedek, and receive a blessing. So I look forward to talking with you about that, and I will see you in the next video.